morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It is the Friday news dump here on a later show. The technical processing of my network is now fixed, so we're ready to cover some news for Friday, so you don't have to worry about the news for the weekend. This is Before Coffee, the father and daughter comprehensive news of Planet Earth podcast, where we look up the news 10 to 15 minutes before we start, and we haven't had any caffeine. So let's read out these headlines and get over to the weekend. Today on Before Coffee, fourth arrest and investigation into the explosion in The Hague, and Holyrood Committee to investigate financial side of domestic abuse.
And then Mars Rover sends back its first pictures from the crater rim.
Macron names ally Francois Bayrou as France's new prime minister.
And Missy Roman's DNA reveals our link to the Neanderthals.
End of an era. What's next for Taylor Swift?
Okay, and it's National Horse Day, so stop horsing around. It's Friday the 13th, December 13th, 2024 on Before Coffee.
We're going to get through this. It's going to be okay. Life goes on, as they say. So let's go with our first story, which is an update on the Hague explosion that happened last Saturday. So it's almost been a week since this random explosion. Like, nobody's really knowing what really happened, but we do have some updates. This is on NOS. Police arrested a fourth suspect last night who may have been involved in the explosion at Holyrood Committee in The Hague last Saturday. It's a man. What his role might have been is not clear. Police say it is also unclear what his relationship to the other three suspects, also men, is. They were arrested on Monday, so actually quite quickly. What was Monday again? Monday was the 9th, I think? Yeah, 9th of December is when they were arrested. All four are in full restrictions and are only allowed to have contact with their lawyer. Explosions and partial collapse of the Hague apartment building killed 6 people as of today. 4 people were taken to the hospital with injuries. Victim Support Today releases more details about who the victims are. One of the dead was a 31-year-old man from Voorburg who was visiting a friend. According to the organization, which is they're out of danger. A 63-year-old man also died in the explosions. He lived on the Tower Comp with their wife. He survived the explosion, is in the hospital, but is out of danger, so they won't die from their injuries, most likely. Maybe from a broken heart. A 44-year-old man who died alone on the Tower Comp and worked in The Hague. His wife and 3 young children lived in Greece. It was previously announced that 3 other fatalities were from the same family. 45-year-old father, a 41-year-old mother, and their 17-year-old daughter dead. That's right, an entire family. Their 8-year-old survived, but the collapse. So now there's like just an orphan, I guess, out there. Hopefully they have a family member that can take care of them. Really tragic. My entire family died in an explosion. Police believe the explosion may be related to a bridal shop on the ground floor of the apartment building. Last night, police reported that they had received over 200 tips in responses to a call. More information is also being sought about 2 cars that were seen in the area, a dark blue Toyota Yaris and a champagne-colored Kia Ceed. Kia Ceed with a C. So there is your update. They have started arresting people, maybe people who might have been seen around the area, or maybe just people that people have grudges against, and it was Tom, he did it, I fucking hate that guy. Oh, I guess we have to arrest Tom now, just in case.
Jeez.
Don't take the people who are being arrested as guilty. That would be the wrong thing to do, but they are investigating, and that's all they can do. In another short story... I'm sorry?
They arrested them or questioned them? They arrested people or they just questioned them?
Custody, I guess. Which assumes arresting, but, you know.
Right. Okay.
For another short story, we're going to talk about investigating the financial side of domestic abuse. We talked about this, I don't know, like 3 weeks ago, but nobody talks about it, and the Harold Scotland by Craig Patton is going to talk about that. The Holyrood Committee has launched an inquiry into the financial implications of leaving an abusive relationship. Social Justice and Social Security Committee has issued a call for views on the issue, with a particular desire to hear from victims about their monetary barriers they faced. The inquiry will focus on economic abuse, as well as covering the government's work to tackle violence against women, girls, and the support available to victims. The committee convener, Colette Stevenson, said that Christmas period should be a time where women can get together with their families. But sadly, for many women suffering from abuse, Christmas can only be lonely and terrible time, with economic abuse trapping them in abusive relationships. We know that over 60,000 incidents of domestic abuse are reported to the police in Scotland. Reminder, only 10% of the population of the UK lives in Scotland, so that's a pretty significant amount. We want to use this inquiry to learn about the support available to women in this awful situation and get an idea what else can be done. If you have any experience of this issue or work for a charity or public body that supports women in this situation, we want to hear from you. Share your views with us by responding to our calls for views. So if you're living in the UK, honestly, you probably can tell them, even if you don't live in the UK, I feel like the experience of financial abuse is probably pretty, not global. It's the same. Everyone's having a pretty similar experience with that. So the calls are open today, and they're closed on February 20th, which is my birthday, and also I have a dentist appointment on my birthday. But fun fact, and with the committee happy to receive anonymous responses. So they didn't give me a phone number, which is annoying, but I guess you'll just have to look up, if you want to call, you have to look up the Social Justice and Social Security Committee and their phone number so you can call them and tell them what it was like to have any financial abuse. Those are my two stories. On to yours.
Yeah, it's terrible. You get trapped in a marriage and you can't leave because, he makes too much money and I'll be destitute and I'll have to live in the street and I'll have to, file for divorce. I'll get dragged up for 6 months. And what do I live on during that time? And lawyers all want their money like up front, whatever. Yeah, so it's terrible. And again, the number one thing you need to learn from this lesson is pay attention to school, learn as much as you can, get yourself your own job, your own career. Don't rely on somebody else for all your shit because they'll possibly, and odds are, let you down at some point.
I mean, honestly, the sick joke about this kind of situation where you're getting financially abused is that there's men out there who want to do it, right? They want to return back to traditional values where, you work and then you have a stay-at-home mom or whatever, and it's like, just so you can financially abuse them. That's why they want it. But anyways, your story.
Power trip. A power trip. Okay, news from Mars. We go way off our planet to Mars. This is from CNET.com.
Our
Amanda
favorite
Koser,
topic, Martians.
Mars, yeah. Do we want to live in Mars? Probably not. But hey, we can explore it, and that's always fun. Shit, we want to learn stuff. NASA Mars Rover delivers triumphant first photos from the crater rim. But who knows? We might discover a hidden civilization under the surface there, right?
Yeah.
It ain't like aliens. If they're smart, they would never let us know it. They would never let us in on their little secrets. They'd be like, we're studying these clowns. We don't want them to see us or understand what we are. Aliens look nothing like us, by the way. The Earth is full of creatures that don't look like us, so why would aliens look like us?
Yeah.
It makes no fucking sense. Yeah. Okay, anyway, they should look like giant ants. That's what they should look like. Anyway, NASA Perseverance rover news. It's been a long, hard climb, but NASA's Perseverance rover has done it. The wheeled Mars Explorer reached the rim of the Jezero crater and paused to take in the view. The rover's first photos from Lookout Hill on December 10th show hills, ridges, scattered rocks, and hazy skies. The rover looked over at the rim and also back at the wheel tracks. This marks the beginning of a new science campaign after the rover's adventures inside the crater. It's been inside the crater, looking in. Now it's up in the rim. Parts of Mars Perseverance, that's our picture, and go down. Hello. Shush. Perseverance landed on Jezero crater on early 2021 and has since explored an ancient river delta, found organic molecules, and built up a collection of rock samples that NASA hopes to one day bring back to Earth for closer study. Yeah, rock samples, make it way more. There you go. There's gravity on Mars. Gravity on Mars is almost the same as ours, so that's
Yeah.
one of those things that we wouldn't have to adapt to. During the Jezero crater rim climb, our rover drivers have done an amazing job negotiating some of the toughest terrain we've encountered since landing, says Perseverance Deputy Project Manager Steve Lee in a NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory statement on December 12th. A sweeping view of a dusty reddish Martian landscape captured by NASA's Perseverance rover. Oh, that's a stupid picture caption again. Yikes. Mars threw plenty of challenges at Perseverance as it climbed the rim. The rover spent 3.5 months ascending the 1,640 vertical feet. It contended with 20% grades and slippery surfaces. The combination of steep and slippery meant the rover team tried various strategies to get up the incline. The planners tested backward driving, switchback driving, and a route that allowed the rover to get a little more purchase. I think they mean by footing. That's what they mean by purchase. No Mars rover mission has tried to climb a mountain this high, this big, this fast. It all worked. Oh, that's according to JPL rover driver Camden Miller in late October. It all worked out. NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab posted a scenic panorama captured just days before Perseverance reached the top. The panorama highlights the steepness of the terrain the rover had to navigate. Perseverance is now embarking on its new Northern Rim science campaign. NASA has already made plans for the first year of the campaign. The rover is expected to drive 4 miles overall and visit 4 specific spots of geologic interest. It also will collect more samples as it goes along. New wonders await. It marks our transition from rocks that partially filled Jezero crater when it was formed by a massive impact about 3.9 billion years ago to rocks from deep down inside Mars that were thrown upward from the crater rim after impact, said Perseverance Project scientist Ken Farley. Who's related to Chris Farley? The first major target is Witch Hazel Hill, a scientifically significant layered outcrop. Those layers represent a peek into Mars past. As we drive down the hill, we're going back in time, investigating the ancient environments of Mars recorded in the crater rim, said Perseverance scientist Candace Bedford of Purdue University. The rocks the team expects to investigate during the campaign are among the oldest found anywhere in the solar system, Farley said. They can tell us a lot about early Mars and inform our understanding of early Earth. Mars and Earth are both rocky planets, though they took the very different paths. Earth became habitable to life as we know it, while Mars became inhospitable. One of the rover's big science goals is to help answer the question of whether or not Mars once hosted microbial life long ago. It has found some promising rocks, but scientists will need to check them out in person. In the meantime, Perseverance continues its exploration at a new elevation. And I think I know the answer. There's your story. I think I know the answer why Mars never had civilization and we did. And it's very elemental. I don't know why they never bring it up. It's that Mars doesn't have the magnetic field that we have. So gamma rays are just punishing the surface constantly. What can live there? We can't. We definitely can't live there without some kind of shield. So there's your story from Mars. Back to you.
All right, yet again, learning more things. I'm starting to think that maybe the human race just actually has been to every planet and we slowly destroyed all of them. Going down.
No, there's life. There's life on other planets.
Maybe we were
Plus,
Martians once and we destroyed that planet so bad we moved down to Earth, you know?
Right. That's the old basis of Scientology, that we came here as aliens, which I can't dispute it. I have no reason to dispute that.
Just as likely as there's some God who made the world in 7 days, really. You can't really...
You want to know my theory? Is that evolution happened in a flash when a virus infected humans that made them super smart. That's what I think. Anyway, back to you.
I mean, it's all as likely as the rest.
Right, and the virus came from another... And the virus was actually an alien. The alien traveling from another planet, very, very small, microscopic, couldn't see it. Infected us, made us really super smart. Hey, we can use these tools. We can build shit. We can farm. We can start fires.
And now it's infected the chimpanzees, as we covered a couple days ago, right? The chimpanzees are starting to teach each other how to use tools.
Like I'm saying, but it affected only this, it's like, some viruses, we can live in animals and never affect them, but they kill us. It's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Just different effects on different species for whatever reason. Anyway.
Let's cover some breaking news, because Macron, France's president, said they were going to make a new prime minister. He just made
They're going to make one out of, they have a kit,
yeah.
they bought a kit.
Just crafted one, put some sticks together and put in some clay. No, he's named the new person as a prime minister. Last time it was more of a right center person who was a Brexit, what do you call it? What's the word? Whatever. And now it's a new guy who's more center, more closer to Macron's actual things he follows. And let's see how long this one lasts. I guess this is on The Independent by Angus Thompson. French President Emmanuel Macron has named his ally, Francois Bayrou, as the new prime minister, tasking the veteran centrist with steering the country out of a second major political crisis in months. The priority for Mr. Bayrou will be passing a special law to roll over the 2024 budget, with a nastier battle over a fresh budget earlier next year. Mr. Macron's last PM, Michel Barnier, was ousted after just 3 months following a no-confidence vote. It was triggered after the former Brexit negotiator, that's the word, and controversially used special constitutional powers to force through his budget, made up a 60 billion euro in tax hikes and spending cuts without a vote. Nobody likes tax hikes, especially the rich people. They'll pay all of the people to, hey, make sure this guy doesn't continue. Mr. Bayrou, 73, is expected to put forward his list of ministers in the coming days, but will likely face the same existential difficulties as Mr. Barnier in steering legislation throughout a hung parliament comprising of 3 warring blocs: left-wing alliance, the far-right National Rally Party of Marine Le Pen, and Mr. Macron's own centrist bloc. Mr. Bayrou's proximity to the deeply unpopular president will also prove a vulnerability. Macron is halfway through his second term as president, due to end in 2027, and Mr. Bayrou will be his 4th prime minister this year. French politics has been deadlocked ever since Mr. Macron called snap parliamentary elections during the summer, aimed at trying to give his centrist a clear mandate from the people, but that backfired to leave no single party in control of parliament. Left-wing alliance called the New Popular Front, which includes the Socialists, the far-left France Unbowed, and a number of other parties, actually topped the July election, and National Rally was the single party with the most votes. But Mr. Macron's centrists eventually struck a deal with the center-right and conservatives to form a government, and Mr. Barnier was appointed as prime minister. The announcement of Mr. Barnier's successor comes 2 days after a spokesperson from the outgoing government said Mr. Macron was seeking a political deal that would allow him to both name a new prime minister and guarantee the stability of the country. Maud Brechion, the spokesperson, said Macron insisted there was, at the moment, no broader political alliance than the current one. He was relaying comments made by Macron during a weekly cabinet meeting. Ms. Brechion said on Wednesday, which was, I guess, the 10th of December, 2 options were being considered. The first one would be to find a way to broaden the alliance, she said, implicitly suggesting some leftists could join the government in addition to the centrists and conservatives. That could give the future government a majority in the assembly. If only the leftists would. She said the other option would have to be to make a deal with opposition parties on the left that could commit to not to vote any no-confidence motion, even though they would not be governing parties, Ms. Brechion said. The problem with the left is that they're always eating themselves from the inside, so they don't really make deals and side with centrist or like slightly right parties because they're just too busy fighting among themselves, in my experience, in my very limited experience of political science. Since last week, Mr. Macron has held talks with politicians from the left and the right, including socialist leaders who now appear as keys in an effort to form a more stable government. Any involvement of the Socialist Party in a coalition may cost Macron its next year's budget. Now we will see how many billions the support of the Socialist Party will cost, a government advisor said today. On December 13th, discussions have not involved nor have listen to the hard left France Unbowed party of Jean-Luc Mélenchon, since Mr. Macron said he would only speak with more moderate political forces, which also counts Marine Le Pen, to be fair. The problem right now is that if there's a rising far-right insurgents in the political system, the left is just going to have to just side with the centrist. Otherwise, you're going to have to be dealing with fascists. It's kind of a lose-lose.
Right.
You have to make conciliations so that the centrists are happy, but at least you don't have to deal with far-right people. In a 10-minute address to the nation last week, Mr. Macron accused the extreme left and right of thinking only about themselves. That's why they're on the extremes, and not their voters, after voting to oust Mr. Barnier, adding to earlier criticism that they were the coalition of the irresponsible. The president said the parties had united in what he called an anti-Republican front, and added, "I won't shoulder other people's irresponsibility." Mr. Macron will hope Mr. Bayrou can stave off a no-confidence vote until at least July, when France will be able to hold a new parliamentary election. The Constitution says there cannot be fresh elections within 12 months. But his own future as president will inevitably be questioned if the government should fall again. Mr. Bayrou, the founder of the democratic movement MoDem party, which has been part of Mr. Macron's ruling alliance since 2017, has himself run for president 3 times. Leaning on his rural roots as the longtime mayor of the southwestern town of Pau. Mr. Macron appointed Mr. Bayrou as justice minister in 2017, but he resigned only weeks later amid an investigation into his party's alleged fraudulent employment of parliamentary assistants. Mr. Bayrou was cleared of fraud charges this year, so now he can freely be assigned as a minister. Mr. Bayrou's first real test will come early in the new year, when lawmakers need to pass this belt-tightening 2025 budget bill. However, the fragmented nature of the National Assembly, rendered nigh on ungovernable after the June snap election, means Mr. Bayrou will likely be living day to day at the mercy of the president's opponents for the foreseeable future. Mr. Barnier's budget bill, which aimed to assuage investors increasingly concerned by France's 6% deficit, was deemed too miserly by the far right and left, and the government failure to find a way out of the gridlock has set French borrowing costs pushing higher still. Oh, so they weren't angry about the tax increase, they're angry that it wasn't high enough. You're like, you need to increase that by way more. You need to tax way more. That's not going to be enough. So, yeah, it's very important. There's a comment here just shortly that's saying it's very important that France, as the heart of the European Union, gets their shit together, because if they don't, if Germany and France don't have their shit together, what is the rest of the EU gonna do? They're only gonna follow suit and also not have their shit together. So hopefully this can be solved. We'll see in February when they put out a new budget for 2025. And on to your next story.
Right on. Go France. Now you need to have one. We need to take our cue from France more often, especially the France of the late 1700s, where they, had their revolution and just stopped taking crap from rich people just because they were rich. Oh, you're rich. Let me just help you get richer. I don't understand this country at all. Anyway, let's go back to the past and more science today. This is from Andrew Curry of science.org. We still believe in science here. Before coffee. In 1950, researchers found a skull and spine fragments at the bottom of a Czech cave called Zlatikon. I don't know how to pronounce that, but I'm going to get close. Stone tools and mammal fossils found nearby suggest the bones were very old, and the skull's shape led archaeologists to guess it belonged to a woman. Her age was a mystery, however, as the organic glue conservators had used to piece her bones together threw off the radiocarbon dating techniques. Yeah, that's not cool. Should have carbon dated it before you glued it together. That's what you should have done. Now researchers have found her relatives by analyzing DNA from the bones of 6 individuals buried in a German cave called Ranus 230. Called Ranus, which is 230 kilometers away. Anyway, the sentence ended like that. It said Ranus 230. Anyway, The cave is just called Uranus. The findings out this week in Nature pinned down when the Zlani Coon woman lived about 45,000 years ago and shed light on the remarkably mobile lifestyle of the earliest groups of modern humans to enter Europe. And the new data add to evidence that soon after modern humans left Africa, just a few thousand years earlier, they began extensive, enduring trysts with Neanderthals, the human cousins who had occupied Europe for hundreds of thousands of years. Well, they're not really human cousins, because if you can mate with them, they have the same amount of chromosomes. So,
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Testing these genetic details from multiple individuals, buried so deep in prehistory, required a Goldilocks solution, said Michael Langley, an archaeologist at Griffin University who was not involved with the research. You need the right location, the right time period, and the right level of preservation, where you can get DNA. It's a really remarkable find. The latest news, commentary, perhaps the most poignant discovery came from a delicate collarbone found in the Uranus cave. Dubbed Uranus 6, it belonged to a young girl who was between 2 and 4 years old when she died. Nearby, the researchers found additional bones that ancient DNA confirmed belonged to the girl's mother. This was the most mind-blowing part of the paper for me, says Ari Sumer, a paleogeneticist at the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology, the EVA, who was the lead author of the new research. I didn't think it would be so close. The DNA showed the mother was related to the woman who died 230 kilometers away in Zlani Coon. Because stretches of DNA get broken up and shortened with each new generation, the team could use the length of the identical segments and widely separated individuals to estimate how many generations had passed since they had a common ancestor. We can not only say they were genetically quite close, but we can tell they lived within 6 generations of each other at most, says EVA geneticist K. Purifer. Now, 6 generations is basically 120 years, so geologically that's a short time, but in human time, yeah, I don't know my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, so never met him. The Uranus pair, radiocarbon dated between 42,000 and 49,000 years ago, were likely distant cousins of the Zlani Coon woman. Together, their DNA will represent the earliest modern human genomes yet sequenced. Extensive genetic similarities between the individuals, meanwhile, suggest they belong to a population numbering only about 200 people at any given time. Archaeologists think they probably lived in a small, scattered bands that came together occasionally to exchange mates, but ranged all across Europe, leaving distinctive leaf-shaped stone tools from what is now the United Kingdom all the way to Poland. That tells us they were highly mobile, following herds of mammoth and reindeer across the landscape according to the seasons, said EVA geneticist Jonas Kraus, a co-author of the Nature paper. The Zlani Coon skull was largely intact, allowing them to reconstruct the shape of the woman's face. She and others shared genes for a dark skin and eyes and lacked genes for lighter pigmentation. This group is among the earliest to split from the lineage that left Africa, Sumer says. It makes sense that they reflect the phenotypical characteristics of sub-Saharan African groups. The new genomes confirm that close to the time these immigrants arrived in Europe, they met and mated with Neanderthals who occupied the continent. By analyzing the proportions and lengths of the Neanderthal DNA segments and the DNA of those ancient Europeans, the researchers were able to estimate that just 80 to 100 generations, or about 2,000 years, had passed since their ancestors had last mated with Neanderthals. The result, which dovetails with a parallel study led by University of California, Berkeley's geneticist Priya Morjani, released earlier this year in a preprint and published today in Science, suggested a major episode of mixing took place some 45,000 years ago, far more recently than scientists thought. The admixture date is certainly on the very young side of what is thought previously, says Pontus Skoglund, a paleogeneticist at the Francis Crick Institute, who is not involved in the research. That would suggest that the expansion immediately followed Neanderthal admixture, or perhaps even that mixture was something a whistle stop during an expansion. A whistle stop. A quickie, in other words, right? Anyway. These pairings provided fortuitous to modern humans, braving a harsh new landscape. Data from the more Johnny teams shows Neanderthal attributes were incorporated into the modern human genome within just a few thousand years. Some pathways, which are enriched, which are related to skin pigmentation and immune genes, were immediately useful to modern humans, said co-author Manjusha Chintalapati, a geneticist at UC Berkeley. Both studies showed Neanderthal DNA, which makes up 2% to 4% of the genes in all modern humans living outside of the sub-Saharan Africa, resulted not from a few dalliances, but many generations of mixing. About 45,000 years ago, you had to have a population that stayed together long enough for everyone in the group to have some Neanderthal ancestry, Rufer says. That gives us a lot of new data to figure out when, where, and how many times there was contact between modern humans and Neanderthals, says Damien Flaws, an archaeologist at the French National Research Agency, CNRS, who was not involved in the research. It's a really nice discovery. Archaeologists have speculated that modern humans moved out of Africa earlier, which claims that sites in Australia and Europe could be up to 65,000 years old. Woo! That's pretty impressive now. Australia, you ought to celebrate that, because you may have been a cradle of civilization at some point, maybe. The new dates don't rule out that possibility, but because everyone outside of sub-Saharan Africa today shares DNA from the same Neanderthal admixture, either these are part of some other out-of-Africa moment or they're not made by modern humans, Sumer says. The ancient genomes delivered one more poignant finding. The ancient family tree that researchers traced at Zlatikun and Ranis soon withered, leaving no trace in modern people's DNA. Based on when their tools disappeared, archaeologists think those pioneers died out about 40,000 years ago. A lot of the oldest Homo sapiens DNA we have in Eurasia doesn't seem to have left a lot of inheritance in modern population, Floss says. It was a lot of small populations facing a lot of environmental and climate change. Some just vanished. So, there you go. Ancient links between differing humanoids that mated with each other, had a party, made kids, so forth.
That's what
and
we
so
are. Honestly,
you.
The only reason we're human sapiens is because the sapiens kind of won out in the genetics war, right? But
right.
If the Neanderthals won out instead, we would be Neanderthals. We would be Homo Neanderthalis or whatever instead of Homo sapien.
Who knows what we'd be doing right now? Maybe we'd be living on Mars.
Yeah.
Because they were super smart. We don't know.
Yeah, they came from Mars. All right. For our next story, let's go to.
Nobody left.
Sorry.
Nobody left any scholarly papers or journals or anything.
No.
I said nobody left any scholarly papers.
That's
or
why we're
journals
searching
or
Mars.
anything.
We're trying to find the secret runes that are like, this is who we were.
Right.
They just want to.
They were worried about survival. That's basically it. Like we are today, worried about survival.
Once we're able to excavate Mars and start digging into Mars, I'm sure we'll find some crazy ruins in there for sure.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Wow, that would be amazing, huh?
Yeah, that'd be crazy. Maybe in my lifetime. Adrian Horton has an article here on The Guardian about the end of the Eras tour, the Eras era even. So what's next for Taylor Swift? Few artists in the history of pop music have had a year like Taylor Swift. I think few people in history have had a year like Taylor Swift. Singer, who turns 35 today, started off 2024 as the most prominent spectator at the Super Bowl, where Travis Kelce and Kansas City Chiefs delivered on a rom-com ending. Her blockbuster Eras tour, showcasing 18 plus years of music over a staggering 3.5 hours, continued 2023's run as pop's main story overseas and became the best-selling music tour in history. Her 11th studio album, The Tortured Poets Department, may have been a misfire with critics, but still broke streaming records and dominated the charts. She was Spotify's most streamed artist globally this year. The Eras tour wrapped last weekend in Vancouver with more than $2 billion in ticket sales from more than 10 million attendees, more than double the next all-time highest grossing tour in only 149 shows. In short, Swift is operating exceedingly rare company at a scale unmatchable to most artists, Her closest pop peer is arguably Beyonce, who only standard and point of comparison is herself. So Beyonce and Taylor Swift are just up there, far above us, with nobody else to relate to. Both also notably rarely grant interviews, which raises the question, after a remarkable run of both ubiquity and good press, after the genuinely mind-boggling and commerce-shifting success of the Eras Tour, what's next? First and foremost, at least according to an exclusive source at People, is rest, and enjoying the holidays with her boyfriend, Eras Tour staple, Travis Kelce. And beyond that, a question of where to go when you're already at the top. Well, down. That's how the saying goes. You can only go down. And that's not a bad thing. I think everyone, everywhere, needs to learn to accept gracefully falling, as they say. Especially as Swift's golden era was also a banner year for a new, younger wave of female artists raised on her music, including Chappelle Roan and Eras Tour openers Sabrina Carpenter and Gracie Abrams. For the all-consuming Eras Tour, Swift indicated a pivot towards film, having sold an original script to Searchlight Pictures in 2022, which she is also expected to direct. Details of the film have been kept tightly under wraps, other than it being an exciting and new creative journey, according to Searchlight heads David Greenbaum and Matthew Greenfield. Well, she is 35, and this is also my life plan. There's this weird thing in society, and it's not fair, but it's a real thing, where a lot of people don't respect you if you're not like 40 or 50 as a woman. They'll respect you because you're rich or even like you're Taylor Swift or whatever, but they won't listen to what you have to say, right? If you want to direct or you want to be like a head writer, a lot of society doesn't care unless you're old, you know? That's my experience anyways. That's also my plan, is to really get it going. It's not like I'm not working in film now,
Right.
but it's a bit of an uphill battle, so to say, right now. When I get old, suddenly I'm a wise woman who knows all. Right now, I'm just a person who looks like a child. I'm still young looking. I don't look 30. So a lot of people think I'm 25. I'm like, why is this 25-year-old trying to tell me what to do? I'm not 25.
I think what's got to happen is you get one of these jobs and you get to the set or whatever, and you just start giving orders to everybody.
Yeah.
Don't stand there, and I think you're in charge. They think you're in charge, and that way you are in charge, right?
Yeah, I do act like I'm in charge, but some people don't accept it because I look so young. But I think that's what Taylor's doing. She's like, I'm done being the product. I want to make the product, right? Because in a way, being a pop star is you are the product. You are the thing being sold. So,
dye your hair gray. Yeah,
Swift has previously directed.
I don't think she'll be struggling too hard.
No, she won't. She has previously directed or co-directed 13 music videos, and All Too Well, the short film, a 15-minute extended music video treatment starring Sadie Sink and Dylan O'Brien. The short film garnered some award season recognition, with Swift expressing an interest in expanding her repertoire as a director. I think that I'm at a place now where the next baby step is not a baby step, but would be committing to making a film, she said during a discussion at the 2022 Toronto Film Festival, in which she also said she wanted to tell human stories about human emotion, going to a more comedic, irreverent place. So that will be interesting. Swift will follow a long line of pop stars who moved to film after successes in music business, of course, in their 30s, including Lady Gaga, who was nominated for an Oscar for A Star Is Born in 2019. Both Selena Gomez and Ariana Grande are in award contentions this year for performances in Emilia Perez and Wicked, respectively. Charlie XCX, Swift's former tour opener in 2018 for Reputation, whose mainstream takeover with Brat Summer is arguably the pop story of the year, has publicly announced her intention to step back from music and focus on acting. Several roles on the calendar. In a knife when you're finally on top, logically the next step is they want to see you fall to the bottom, he said. She and Grande sing on a remix of Sympathy is a Knife, a track originally thought to be about Swift that was redone following Brat's success. The industry is small and anxious. It's too soon to tell whether Swift, who has always emphasized storytelling as the center of her career, will also seek to appear in front of the camera. Typically, as much as typical exists in a rarefied world of pop, artists seeking a next step from music or the grind of touring move to residencies. Think Adele's stay in Vegas, behind-the-scenes mentorship or extended hiatus. But Swift is famously productive. She has released 5 studio albums in as many years, and there's also the possibility of more new music. Swifties have made a cottage industry out of reading the clues for the fan-coveted re-recordings of Reputation and Swift's 2006 debut album, dates for which have yet to be announced. Swift has kept plans close to her chest, part of a long-standing effort to surprise fans. None of them would be begrudged her time off, but she, by her own ambition, loves to work. I'm the same too. I love working. I love doing stuff, producing things. I'm happier when I'm making things more often, she told Martin McDonough during a Directors on Directors chat 2 years ago. While her next step is anyone's guess, best be bet on something. She's not going to retire. She's not going to go to a country home and take care of horses, okay? That's just not in her purview. There you go. There's your update on the end of an era. On to the next chapter for Taylor Swift and to this day in history.
Right on, right on. Well, good luck to Taylor and anybody else who's trying to change their careers. Like in entertainment, there's that law of diminishing returns that, I don't know, a lot of these people deny it exists, but there's a peak, right? You peak, and after that, you will never reach that peak again, as hard as you try.
Totally fine.
Cynicism kicks in.
Yeah.
Cynicism kicks in, and people go, how come your new album sucks? Right? It's a law of diminishing returns. And it affects everybody. Except maybe Bob Dylan, right? Because he changes all the time on his own. It's like, and they don't like him anyway, right? You don't like me anyway. I don't care. You know, I'm changing because I don't really, this is for me. It isn't for you. As selfish as that might seem,
that's how
this
Taylor
is for me.
feels as well.
Right?
All the things Taylor's doing, she's
like
doing it for herself. She's not doing it for anybody else.
Like George Carlin said, you're here for me. Well, he's a comedian, George Carlin, stand-up comedian. Said, you're here for me. I'm also here for me, right? Nobody is here for you.
No one cares about
the audience.
You're the audience.
Keep
Shut
your mouth.
up.
Yeah, I don't want to hear. And that's how he deal with hecklers too. He's like, that's how I deal with hecklers. You're sitting next to a heckler. Deal with him. I want you to deal with him, however you need to, right? Anyway. George Carlin. I miss George Carlin and his common sense. Like, I'm here for you. I'm here for me. You're here for me. It's also Taylor Swift's birthday. I don't know if you noticed that.
No, I didn't say. That's nice.
Did you mention? Did you mention it?
No, they didn't mention it in the article. I had no idea.
Purely a coincidence. She turned 35.
It said she turned 35,
today.
but I guess that means they were trying to say she turned 35 today, maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, that was in my day in history. And we're going to go to our day in history. In 1545, the Council of Trent, the 19th ecumenical council of the Roman Catholic Church, which helped revitalize the church in many ways. In many parts of Europe, after the Protestant Reformation opened in Trent, Italy. Big important day for the Catholic Church. 1784, Samuel Johnson, regarded as one of the greatest figures of the 18th century life and letters of his biographies and essays, died in London. Okay. Nothing really specific about him. 1862, the Battle of Fredericksburg, which is in Virginia, a bloody engagement of the American Civil War in which Confederate troops were led to victory. Robert E. Lee over Union forces and General Ambrose Everett Burnside was waged. Yeah, but they still lost the war. 1913, American boxer Archie Moore was born, the world light heavyweight boxing champion. He was the champion from 1952 to 1962. I think he went from light heavyweight to heavyweight at some point. Archie Moore, one of the greats of boxing. 1921, the Four-Power Pact was signed during the Washington Conference by the United States, Great Britain, Japan, and France, stipulating that all the signatories would be consulted in the event of a controversy between two of them over any Pacific question. Right on, any Pacific question. Like, how big is the Pacific? And the answer, of course, is really, really big. 1934, British astronomer J.P.M. Prentice discovered Nova Herculis, one of the brightest novas of the 20th century. A nova is a star exploding. 1937, the Japanese Imperial Army seized Nanjing, China during the Sino-Japanese War, leading to the Nanjing Massacre, in which up to 300,000 Chinese people may have been killed. The Rape of Nanking, as they called it. Yep, the Japanese were really shitty back in that
Imperial
era.
Age.
They were totally a shitty regime.
Yep.
Totally shitty regime. Invaded China. Probably killed 1 million people as they just decimated the whole place. 1956, the film drama Anastasia was released in American theaters. It marked the Hollywood comeback of Ingrid Bergman, whose extramarital affair had caused a scandal. Extramarital affair caused a scandal, and she won an Academy Award for her performance. Imagine that. It's Hollywood, man. Extramarital affairs are part of the business, man. You got to know that. 1989, American country music. She's not a country music singer. She does not sing country music. I'm sorry. She's not a country music singer. I don't know where this comes from. Anyway, Taylor Swift, whose pop-infused tales of young heartache received widespread crossover success in the early 20th century, was born. I don't know where this country music nonsense comes from.
But she doesn't sing it anymore.
She started in Nashville, but I never thought she was country music. First of all, country music has to have a pedal steel guitar, or it's not country music.
It does, though.
It's just another form of music, right? It's
Americana.
Americana.
I think you need to re-listen to her first album. That's definitely a country album. Maybe the second one as well.
Does she have a pedal steel guitar in it?
I'm pretty sure she does.
If not, then it's not country. It might be bluegrass, but it's not country.
Okay,
right?
Fine.
Fiddle.
I'll give you bluegrass. Maybe.
That makes it bluegrass. Yeah, it might be bluegrass, but without pedal steel guitar, it's not country. I'm sorry, that is the line.
Those are the rules.
That you draw. That is the line.
I agree with you.
It used to be country music didn't even have. It used to be country music wasn't even allowed to have drums. Do you believe that? Because they didn't want any African influence. Oh no, shh. Black people play music too. Yeah. So Johnny Cash famously on his songs, on his recordings on Sun Records, he would tap his guitar for percussion because they weren't allowed to have drums. Insane. You want to talk about some racist bullshit. Anyway, 2003 on this day, Saddam Hussein was executed. That's right. 21 years ago. Has it already been that? Oh no, he wasn't executed. He was captured. All right.
He was in prison for a long time, wasn't
Iraqi president. Yeah, he was captured 3 years ago. I'm sorry, in 2003. Iraqi President Saddam Hussein was captured by U.S. forces during the Iraq War. 3 years later, he was found guilty of crimes against humanity and executed. Yes, Saddam Hussein was a scumbag. So
I wish that would happen to certain other politicians currently in power right now. Kafka.
All right.
People who are
no tears for him,
be
although
guilty of human crimes against humanity. You know, there's warrants out for their arrest, so it seems like they might have committed these crimes.
To be fair, we didn't care about his crimes against humanity until he invaded Kuwait and said, "Oh my God, we're not going to have cheap oil anymore." That's when we worried about Saddam Hussein. Other than that, you can exterminate Kurds. We don't care. So the United States just totally bit the big one and that all around.
Yeah, terrible.
And if you had to go to Iraq for that stupid war, God bless you. You were caught up in this stupidity of global intrigue. Our feature event, 1642, New Zealand was sighted. Nobody knew it was there before, even the people that lived there. On this day in 1642, Dutch navigator Abel Tasman sighted South Island, New Zealand, and later mistakenly the Strait of the North Island for a bay, believed that he had found the west coast of a hypothetical southern continent. Not quite. Oh yeah. Yep, the people in the
Europeans discovering things that everyone else who's already living there knew existed. All he had to do was talk to a Pacific Islander, and they would have said, "Oh yeah, New Zealand's down over there," and they would have told him.
Our feature biography is right. The people in this, I don't know. It's just so funny how ethnocentric our history is, right? It's like, oh yeah, Europeans did this. Like, dude, you didn't do that first. China did it first, morons. Anyway, Moses Maimonides is our feature biography. Maimonides, Jewish philosopher, scholar, and physician, born March 30th, 1135, died on December 13th, 1204, at the age of 69 in Egypt. Went from Spain to Egypt. And our other birthdays today, Dick Van Dyke. Oh my goodness, Dick Van Dyke's birthday. He's 99 years old today. So Dick Van Dyke's still around. Still around and kicking. Him and Mel Brooks are good friends, and both still kicking at this age. 1929, Christopher Plummer, unfortunately, still not with us anymore. Christopher Plummer, born in 1929. It's his birthday. Canadian. I didn't know he was Canadian. Well, now I know. 1953, American economist Ben Bernanke was born. And what's that?
Oh, I just said surprise. He's Canadian. Surprise Canadian.
And Christopher Plummer, famous for.
Don't know.
Maybe you know him from something. Thought you would shout it out.
If I knew what his face looked like.
I know who he is.
Yet again, I don't know who that is unless I see their face.
If you look a picture of him, you say, oh yeah, that guy. Anyway, Jamie Foxx's birthday, born in 1967. American comedian, musician, and actor. Jamie Foxx. And of course, we covered Taylor Swift's birthday. What other days is it?
That's why they were playing videos from him today. It was his birthday. I was on social media, right, when I wake up.
Oh, Jamie Foxx.
They were playing videos of him at the some sort of award where he was singing. He wanted to be Serena Williams' tennis ball. I was like, why are they playing that? This is random. It's because it's his birthday, and they're like a great moment from Jamie Foxx's history where he hosted the award ceremony and he sang to Serena Williams about being her tennis ball.
Was it the award? I think they had the Billboard Awards or something last night. So, Taylor Swift can fill up another room full of trophies. And
yep.
Pick a paleontologist day today. It's Pick a Paleontologist Day. So, I'm sorry, paleontologist. Woof. Pick a pathologist day. What do you need a pathologist? Pathologists are people that examine dead tissue, basically.
He was in Knives Out. Christopher Plummer was in Knives Out. He was the guy who dies in Knives Out, who leaves he's the guy who dies and everyone starts fighting over his money, right? He's the guy who dies. That's who Christopher Plummer is.
Okay, that's who you know him from. It's National Day of the Horse, so if you have a horse today, well, every day is a good day, right? If you got a horse. National Cocoa Day. So yeah,
make some hot cocoa.
Confection that you can drink. That's right. And put some marshmallows in there and just give yourself a nice sugar rush. National Violin Day. So violins, cocoa, and horses. That's a good mix. National Salesperson Day. That guy that bugs you constantly. National Guard Birthday. It's a birthday of the National Guard. The United States National Guard. The civilian militia that was called for in the Second Amendment that everybody mistook for everybody can have a gun. Anyway, happy birthday to civilian militias who keep their towns usually get called out for floods and disasters, and you got to go to work for your neighbors for very little pay.
They're basically volunteer
anyway, those are your days for today.
But instead they have weapons,
Right. Well, they don't necessarily have weapons. You don't really have weapons for civilian
That's what's
jobs.
protected. They're the only people. They're the real people. The only people in the United States that are allowed to have weapons under the Second Amendment. They're the actual only people that are allowed.
Right. Even they're still not allowed to have weapons, right? They lock them up in the armory.
Yes.
It's not like you take them home.
No,
people
that's
think
ridiculous.
the military gets to keep their guns in their pockets. It's ridiculous. I saw my gun once a week when I cleaned it. That was it. Anyway, and I gave it right back to the armor and went back to my job,
Yep.
So anyway, those are your days for today. On December 13th, Friday the 13th, don't forget, be safe out there. I've already had a shitty start to my day. I'm glad you didn't see it. I was throwing shit, and I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? I'm not getting paid? Anyway, so hopefully you haven't resolved that, but I've calmed the hell down, and happy Friday to everybody. Those are your stories, those are your days for December 13th on 2024 and before Cocoa.
Yep. No international UN days today, so that is me, Ali, from the Netherlands, and Raj from the US, west coast of the United States, as we are saying goodbye for the weekend. I hope you guys have a good weekend, and make sure to take care of yourself out there. And happy, I guess, second day of Christmas for anybody who celebrates, because it is the second. It's the second day of Christmas. So we got 2 doves. We have to get 2 turtle doves here. So don't forget to give that to your true love from two turtle doves today. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already to the channel and turn on the notifications. Like this video and tell us what kind of hot cocoa you like to make. Do you use milk? Do you use water? Do you make the French version where you just melt a giant stick of chocolate and butter in your freaking mug? And
just take milk and chocolate syrup and heat up the milk. That's about it.
See, everyone has a different way they make it. Exactly. But here is our mic drop moment. Very topical mic drop moment right now.
Here we go.
I don't know if he's impersonating Bob Dylan or he just like is inspired by Bob Dylan.
He's trying to sound like Dylan, right?
Yeah, I think he is. He doesn't look kind of dressed like him a little bit. This is the truth of the healthcare system in the United States, unfortunately.
Yep. This guy should be president.
I think anyone who understands how the world works should be president, which is, you know, sadly not the current state of the world.
Last year, the Warren Buffett of health and Jeff Bezos of fear. Now CEOs come and go, and one just went.
And one just went.
It's a great song. Very current, right?
Yep. That's the whole problem when we made the health system something you can make money off of. A lot of money off of.
There ain't no you in United Health, there ain't no me in the company, there ain't no us in the private trust. There's hardly humans in humanity. There's hardly humans in humanity.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.